When Melissa Turner walked outside to check her mailbox that Tuesday afternoon, she found 3 orange violation notices zip-tied to her front gate and another taped directly onto her garage door. At first, she thought somebody was playing a joke on her, but the moment she started reading them, her stomach dropped. According to the HOA, she now owed over $9,000 in fines for unauthorized property modifications and repeated non-compliance. One violation even accused her of operating an illegal business from her home. Melissa stood frozen in the driveway while neighbors slowed their cars to stare at the notices hanging from her property like warning signs. She had lived in the quiet Florida neighborhood for almost 6 years and had never received a single complaint before. But everything changed after the new HOA president moved in across the street. And within a few months, the conflict between Melissa and HOA President Rebecca Sloan would spiral so badly that county investigators would eventually seize HOA computers while furious residents demanded criminal charges during a packed emergency meeting. Melissa was a 38-year-old widow raising 2 children alone after her husband died from cancer 3 years earlier. To help cover bills, she worked remotely as a graphic designer and occasionally sold handmade wreaths and holiday decorations online. Her home was modest but always clean. Most neighbors liked her because she stayed quiet and kept to herself, but Rebecca Sloan immediately disliked her the moment she moved into the neighborhood. Rebecca treated the HOA like a luxury resort instead of a normal suburban community. She constantly complained about trash bins, parked cars, decorations, and lawns. Residents slowly started avoiding her entirely. The real conflict started during Christmas season. Melissa placed several handmade wreaths and decorative lights outside her home because her children loved decorating after losing their father. The display wasn't excessive at all. In fact, several homes had larger decorations, but Rebecca personally walked over one evening and demanded Melissa remove everything immediately because it allegedly violated HOA guidelines. Melissa politely explained that HOA rules allowed decorations until January 5th. Rebecca didn't care. She claimed Melissa's decorations looked cheap and lowered neighborhood standards. Melissa refused to remove them because she wasn't breaking any rules. 2 days later, the violations began arriving. At first, the notices seemed minor. One claimed Melissa's mailbox colors slightly differed from approved community shades. Another stated her driveway contained visual staining, even though the driveway was spotless. Then came accusations about her home business. Rebecca somehow discovered Melissa sold handmade decorations online and accused her of running unauthorized commercial operations from the property. Melissa tried explaining she simply shipped small online orders through regular mail pickups. There were no customers visiting the house. But Rebecca continued escalating the situation anyway. Soon, the HOA started adding legal processing fees onto every violation. Within 2 months, Melissa somehow owed nearly $5,000. Things became worse after Melissa attended an HOA board meeting hoping to dispute the charges. Rebecca presented printed photographs of Melissa's home like evidence in a criminal case. She enlarged pictures of wreaths, decorations, and screenshots from Melissa's small Etsy shop. Then Rebecca publicly accused Melissa of violating residential integrity standards. Several residents looked uncomfortable listening to it. One elderly man quietly asked whether other residents selling items online were also being fined. Rebecca ignored the question completely. Then she accused Melissa of being combative toward HOA leadership. Melissa couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had barely spoken during the meeting, but Rebecca continued talking over her until Melissa finally walked out humiliated. The next morning, Melissa discovered somebody had filed an anonymous complaint with county code enforcement, accusing Melissa of operating an illegal warehouse business from home. County inspectors arrived days later expecting to find commercial activity. Instead, they found a grieving mother working from a laptop beside a few boxes of holiday decorations. The inspector actually apologized to Melissa after realizing the complaint was ridiculous. But Rebecca wasn't finished. Soon, Melissa began noticing HOA representatives driving slowly past her house almost daily. Even Melissa's children started becoming anxious whenever HOA vehicles appeared nearby. One evening, her younger son quietly asked if they were going to lose the house. That question completely broke her emotionally. Desperate for help, Melissa contacted a local attorney named Carla Jennings, who specialized in HOA disputes. Carla immediately noticed something suspicious while reviewing the violation history. Many fines lacked proper documentation. Some notices were dated before inspections supposedly occurred. Carla requested official HOA financial records and communication logs. Rebecca refused repeatedly, claiming the requests were harassment against the board. That refusal became a major mistake. Under state law, homeowners had the right to review many HOA records. Carla warned Melissa that something inside the HOA likely wasn't being managed legally. Then an unexpected witness changed everything. A former HOA treasurer named Harold contacted Carla privately after hearing about Melissa's case. Harold had resigned months earlier after arguments with Rebecca regarding HOA finances. Worse, he suspected HOA funds were being spent improperly. Harold still possessed copies of old financial spreadsheets and internal emails. Some expenses listed luxury restaurant bills, spa visits, and expensive office furniture supposedly purchased for community operations. One email from Rebecca shocked everyone involved. In it, she directly referred to Melissa as the widow with the decoration obsession and instructed another board member to keep applying pressure until compliance improves. Carla immediately realized they now had evidence of selective enforcement and possible financial misconduct. Once Carla filed legal motions demanding full HOA transparency, Rebecca completely panicked. She started issuing even more aggressive violations against Melissa. One notice claimed Melissa's children's chalk drawings on the driveway created visual pollution. Residents started noticing how ridiculous the situation had become. Then everything changed after a neighborhood Facebook group exploded with complaints against Rebecca. Dozens of residents shared their own stories about unfair treatment. One couple had been fined over wind chimes. Another homeowner received violations because his pickup truck remained parked outside during roof repairs. Suddenly, people realized Melissa wasn't the only target. Rebecca had been terrorizing residents for years. The pressure intensified when local media became interested in the story. Melissa originally wanted no publicity, but after seeing how many neighbors were suffering too, she agreed to speak publicly. Her interview spread quickly online. People were outraged seeing a widow threatened with foreclosure over holiday decorations and online craft sales. Within days, county officials formally requested HOA financial records after multiple residents submitted complaints. Rebecca attempted damage control immediately, blaming disgruntled homeowners. Nobody believed her anymore. Then, investigators uncovered something catastrophic. Thousands of dollars in HOA funds had been transferred into accounts connected to Rebecca's personal consulting company. Several expenses were disguised as community beautification projects that never actually existed. Investigators also discovered selective enforcement records showing Rebecca intentionally targeted specific homeowners while ignoring identical violations at her friends' properties. The evidence became impossible to defend. At the next HOA meeting, residents packed the clubhouse so tightly people stood outside listening through open doors. Rebecca tried speaking over everyone while insisting she was protecting property values, but homeowners kept interrupting her with printed evidence. One resident projected financial documents on a wall showing suspicious spending patterns. Another read Rebecca's insulting emails aloud in front of the crowd. Then somebody near the back shouted that county investigators had arrived. Seconds later, two officials entered alongside sheriff deputies carrying evidence boxes. The room fell completely silent as investigators informed the board they were executing an official record seizure related to financial misconduct allegations. Residents watched in disbelief while deputies collected computers, binders, and financial files directly from the HOA office. Within weeks, multiple lawsuits were filed against the HOA and Rebecca personally. Rebecca eventually stepped down as HOA president while denying wrongdoing publicly. Meanwhile, Melissa's fines were dismissed entirely. The HOA was forced to reimburse thousands in legal expenses to multiple residents. New elections were held under county supervision, and homeowners approved major reforms limiting HOA enforcement powers moving forward. For Melissa, the experience permanently changed how she viewed the neighborhood she once loved, but something unexpected happened afterwards. Residents who barely spoke before suddenly became closer than ever. The same neighborhood that once stayed silent finally pushed back together. And months later, during the next Christmas season, dozens of homes throughout the community displayed handmade wreaths and decorations proudly across their front doors.